Have you ever thought about all the food that we waste like on a daily basis?
Oh yeah, it's a huge problem globally.
It's a crazy amount, right?
Yeah.
I was reading that like a third of all the food produced in the world ends up in the trash.
Yeah, those statistics are pretty alarming.
It is, and so today we're diving deep into a potential solution, and it's one that you might not expect. It involves chickens.
Chickens.
Yeah, chickens.
Interesting.
So you might be thinking chickens in a city, like how does that even work?
Oh, that's not something you usually
Yeah,
picture.
not at all. But there's this city, Mouscron, in Belgium, and they're actually giving away chickens to residents to help deal with this food waste problem.
I've heard about this. It's a pretty fascinating approach to promoting sustainable living.
Yeah, it is. And before we get into like all the nitty-gritty details of how it works in Mouscron,
Mhm.
I think it's important to understand the scale of the food waste issue.
Absolutely. I mean, globally, food waste accounts for something like 8% of all greenhouse gas emissions. So it's a significant contributor to climate change, and it's something that we can actually do something about.
Right. So it's not just about like feeling bad that we're throwing away food. It has like real environmental consequences.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about this Mouscron model then. So they're giving away 3 chickens to each household that participates.
Yeah, 3 chickens per household.
Now, I don't know about you, but I'm picturing 3 chickens and I'm thinking, okay, how much food can they actually eat?
Right. You'd be surprised, though. Each chicken can eat around 150 kilograms of organic waste per year.
150
Yes,
kilograms.
pretty impressive.
Wow. Okay, so that's actually a lot more than I thought.
Oh, yeah, it's a significant amount. And to put that in perspective, that's like reducing your household waste by almost 20%.
So not only are you helping the environment, but you're also potentially saving money on like waste disposal fees.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation.
Okay, but hold on. Now, wouldn't those same people then be spending money on chicken feed to like feed these chickens?
Well, that's the really interesting part. Chickens are really good at converting food waste into valuable resources. They're not picky eaters at all.
So you're saying they can basically live off my kitchen scraps?
Pretty much, they can thrive on a diet that's mostly made up of things that we would normally just throw away.
So instead of those scraps ending up in a landfill, they're being turned into what happens to them?
Well, for one, you get fresh eggs from the chickens, and then you also get nutrient-rich fertilizer from their manure.
Okay, so I'm starting to get this. You're telling me I could potentially like replace my garbage disposal with a bunch of chickens and get free eggs out of the deal.
That's the general idea. It's a pretty appealing concept, right?
It is, but I have to ask, wouldn't keeping chickens in a city like create all sorts of problems? Wouldn't there be noise complaints or issues with like odor or even attracting pests?
Those are all valid concerns, and we'll definitely get into those logistical challenges a bit later. But what's interesting about the Muskron model is that they've actually thought about these things ahead of time.
So they're not just like throwing chickens into the city and hoping for the best.
No, not at all. For example, they structured the program around hens instead of roosters, so noise complaints are less of an issue.
That makes sense. Hens are definitely quieter.
Right, and they also provide resources and guidance to residents on how to properly design and maintain their chicken coops.
So it's about minimizing odor and preventing any pest problems.
Exactly. They're trying to be proactive about addressing those concerns.
So Moose Kron seems to be having a lot of success with this, but I'm curious, would people in other countries really be open to having chickens in their backyards?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's not just about individual preferences, but also local regulations and cultural norms. I mean, here in the US, for example, some cities have very strict rules about keeping livestock within city limits,
Right.
whereas others are more lenient.
And then there's the question of whether people are actually willing to take on the responsibility of caring for chickens.
Yeah.
It is a commitment.
It is. It's like having any other pet.
Yeah, I can imagine the learning curve would be pretty steep for someone who's never even held a chicken before. But what about in areas where space is limited, like in apartments or townhouses? Is this even a possibility?
That's where things get even trickier. Space limitations are a real concern, and the Moose Cron model, which kind of assumes that people have some backyard space, might not be directly transferable to every urban environment.
Okay, so we've seen how well this is working in Moose Kron, and we've started to touch on some of the potential hurdles to implementing it elsewhere. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's dive deeper into the specifics of how this program actually works. Like, what are the nuts and bolts of the Moose Kron model?
Absolutely. I think understanding those details is crucial if we want to explore its potential in other contexts. So in Moose Cron, it's not just like they're just handing out chickens to anyone who wants them.
Yeah, because like I was thinking about that. Like, how do they make sure that these chickens are going to good homes? you know?
Right. They have a whole process to make sure this program is successful, both for the residents and the chickens themselves.
Okay, so what do they do? Like, what kind of support does the city offer to the people who are participating?
Well, first of all, anyone who wants to participate has to attend a mandatory workshop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it covers all the basics of chicken care, like how to set up a coop and how to recognize if your chicken is sick.
Okay.
They even give everyone a handbook that has like detailed information on pretty much everything you need to know about raising chickens.
So it's like Chicken 101.
Pretty much, yeah.
So is there like a test at the end? You have to like identify different breeds of chickens or something?
Maybe not that intense, but you do have to show that you have a basic understanding of chicken care before they give you the chickens.
Okay, so it's not just like, here's some chickens, good luck.
No, definitely not. It's about making sure that people are really prepared for the commitment.
That makes sense. But even with all the training, like, I can imagine there would be some unexpected challenges that pop up.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what happens if someone's coop gets infested with mites or their hen starts laying weird-shaped eggs? Is there like a chicken hotline they can call?
Well, you're right about those kinds of situations coming up. And yeah, Moosecron has a whole team that's dedicated to providing ongoing support to the participants.
Oh, wow. Okay, so they're not just on their own.
No, they'll give you advice on anything from like coop maintenance to health issues, and they even have a network of local vets who specialize in poultry.
So if your chicken's not feeling well, you can take it to the chicken doctor.
Pretty much, yeah. They've got you covered.
That's pretty cool. So it sounds like they're really invested in making sure this program is a success.
Yeah, they are.
But what about the chickens themselves? Where do they come from?
That's another really important part of the program. The city works with local ethical breeders who put the health and well-being of the chickens first.
Okay.
So they're not just like getting a truckload of chicks from some factory farm.
No, that's good.
This way, they can ensure that the chickens are well socialized and disease-free and that they're used to the local environment.
So they're ready to be city chickens.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about all the support that the participants get, but let's be real. Not everyone loves chickens.
Right.
Some people might be kind of grossed out by the idea of having to deal with chicken poop or worried about attracting rats or other pests. How does the program address those concerns?
I think you're hitting on some of the most common concerns, and it's understandable. Nobody wants a smelly backyard full of rats.
Whoa, definitely not.
But again, it all comes down to proper coop design and management.
Okay.
The city provides really clear guidelines on how to build a coop that minimizes odor and keeps pests out.
So like rat-proof chicken coops.
Exactly. And they also encourage people to use the chicken manure as fertilizer for their gardens. So it's not just waste, it's actually a valuable resource.
So you're basically composting with chickens.
Pretty much, yeah.
But what about the noise? I always thought chickens were pretty noisy, especially early in the morning.
Again, that's where the hens come in. They're much quieter than roosters, and if you place the coop properly, noise complaints are pretty rare.
Okay, that makes sense.
Plus, a lot of people find the sound of hens clucking to be kind of soothing.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal here. Less waste, fresh eggs, free fertilizer, and maybe even some calming chicken sounds.
It's a pretty good deal.
But I have to admit, I'm still not sure how well this would work in other places, especially in big cities with lots of people.
I get your skepticism. The Muscron model definitely works well in their specific context, but it might not be a one-size-fits-all solution for every urban environment.
Right.
But I do think it gives us a lot of valuable insights into how we can rethink waste management and urban agriculture.
Okay, so if Moosecron isn't like a perfect model, are there other examples of cities that have successfully implemented similar programs?
Yeah, there are actually a bunch of cities around the world that are experimenting with urban chicken programs, each with its own unique approach.
Okay, cool. So let's look beyond Moosecron then and see what other cities are doing to integrate chickens into urban environments. Okay, so we saw how Moosecron is using chickens, but are there other cities that are trying something similar?
Yeah, for sure. One that comes to mind is Vancouver, Canada. They have a really good urban chicken program that's been going on for over 10 years.
Vancouver, really? I wouldn't have thought of them as a chicken city.
Yeah.
What's their program like?
It's actually quite different from Moosecrons. They don't actually give away chickens.
Oh, okay.
Instead, they focus more on education and permitting.
Interesting.
So they offer these workshops on chicken care and urban farming, and they have a really simple process for getting permits to keep chickens in the city.
So they're not like discouraging people from having chickens.
Yeah.
They're just making sure that people know what they're getting into.
Exactly. It's all about giving residents the choice, but also giving them the knowledge and support to do it responsibly.
Okay, I like that. And is it working?
Yeah, it seems to be. There are thousands of backyard chickens in Vancouver now. And they're all contributing to waste reduction, and it's creating this really cool sense of community among urban farmers.
Oh, that's nice. I hadn't even thought about the community aspect of it.
Right.
That's really cool. Are there any other cities that we should be looking at for ideas?
Oh, yeah. There are a ton of examples, each with their own unique approach, like in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
They have this program where they encourage residents to donate their unwanted chickens to community gardens.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So it creates this shared resource for sustainable food production.
And I guess it makes sure those chickens have a good home, too.
Yeah.
I'm noticing a pattern here. It seems like the programs that are working the best are the ones that really prioritize education and community involvement.
I think you're absolutely right. It's not just about handing out chickens or changing the rules. It's about creating this whole culture of sustainability where people are empowered to make their own choices and connect with each other.
So if someone listening to this is thinking, hey, I want chickens in my city, what would you tell them to do?
Well, the first thing I would say is do your research, learn as much as you can about the benefits and the challenges of keeping chickens in a city,
Right.
and find out what the rules are in your area.
Right.
And then I would say reach out to local organizations or community groups that are already involved in urban agriculture or sustainable living.
Huh.
They can be a really valuable resource for information and support.
So maybe you'll be the one to start a chicken revolution in your city.
Hmm.
It's pretty amazing to think that something as simple as a chicken could have such a big impact on our cities and our planet. We've talked a lot about the practical side of things, but for me, the most exciting part of this whole conversation is seeing how chickens can change our relationship with food waste and connect us more with nature in our communities.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's something really special about taking care of animals and understanding where our food comes from. And it's amazing that something as simple as a chicken can help us do that.
It just goes to show that solutions to big problems don't always have to be complicated. Sometimes the answers are right there in front of us, clucking away, just waiting to be discovered. So what do you think? Are you ready to join the chicken revolution? Even if raising chickens isn't for you, what other simple solutions are out there that we could explore to create a more sustainable and connected world? That's something for everyone to think about.